One end of the ruler is the best you've ever played, and the lowest end of the ruler is the worst you've ever played. Your goal isn't to push the higher end higher. Your goal is to shorten the ruler while keeping it towards the higher end. All right. Why'd you even enter this? You don't need coaching. I get it. It's a frustrating feeling, right? Like, you're in a position where you know you can perform better than the enemy team, and you're just not. And it's very hard in the moment as a player from first-person POV to diagnose all these issues. Spoiler alert, this is why coaches exist. Let's get right into gameplay. Okay, we make the Widow swap because it's Watch by Gibraltar, and why wouldn't we? Ooh, the quick 180s, testing our mouse pad, warming up the aim, good stuff. That's by the way, that's the mark of an OG FPS player right there, or at least the OG Overwatch player. The wrist shake to shake off your bad aim, A+. Nice little grapple. I love this spot personally as well. I think you were intentionally missing there to try and bait the reflect. Correct me if I'm wrong, but high level play if so. I like that you're also prioritizing the payload here. You recognize that, yes, Zen and Ana could be the ones on payload, but they're also probably not the first person you want into the enemy front line, and you want to get a more aggressive angle than either Zen or Ana. So you're getting aggressive while also contesting the payload. Good multitasking. Ooh, unfortunate bubble timing. Ooh, one more! Oh, okay, doesn't matter. Genji got it. Nice job. Aggressive grapple. Nice. What's happening? Alright. Why'd you even enter this? You don't need coaching. Beanie, what's happening right now? I tell you guys, shaking off all the bad aim, it works. I like that you're getting aggressive here again. I mean, like, normally you could talk about this as like hyper-aggressive use of grapple, but because we've killed everyone on the enemy team, we don't need to worry about getting hyper-aggressive because there's no one to punish us. Downside is our team doesn't know what they want to prioritize, so they're not sure who they want to leave on payload. Oh, wait, payload's all the way up here. Technically, you could be doing the same thing you were doing before. Sit down here, you would just need your grapple cooldown to be able to get back into server quickly or back up to here, or back up to blue box aggressively kind of thing. But yeah, this is absolutely fine. The only thing I would say is actually I want you more aggressive. So when you're playing Widow and you're in control of space, when you have gotten all the kills in the world, when the enemy team is crying and thinking about uninstalling, you want to be pressing that as much as possible. One, for the advantage that it grants you in terms of position, it means you can save a lot of personal resources. You can get aggressive and then wait for your grapple to come off cooldown. You can get early venom mines deeper to be able to mark your threats sooner, and you can threaten more angles. So for example, from an angle like this, you can threaten all 4 of these entryways instead of just the one you're looking at from your current position. And as long as you have grapple, you can still grapple back here if you need to, and that kind of thing. So I would like to see you developing faster and more aggressively, funnily enough. And the other thing is the mental game. You just domed 3 people back to back, like within 5 seconds of the doors opening. They're thinking about you as Widow. So when you're trying to get the most out of the mental game here, and Widowmaker is one of the best heroes for manipulating the mental game, by the way, you want them worried about you. You want them thinking that every time they come out of a choke, someone's going to get headshot. And whether that's a tank or support, it doesn't really matter as long as you're being a consistent threat here. So even though it might take you out of the fight sooner, I'd like to see you pushing them until they have to push back. Getting to the point where they have to commit everything just to get through a choke. And even if that takes you out of position, even if you're not getting kills anymore, that's incredibly high value. Because you know what happens when the enemy Winston has to use a bubble to get out here instead of being able to jump and bubble on your Zen? It means your Zen kills everyone instead of you. You know what happens when the enemy Genji comes out of a choke and immediately just hits deflect when he sees your silhouette across the map? It means he doesn't get to dash onto your Ana without being able to outplay the sleep dart and things like that. So that level of like hyper aggression can be really, really impactful in your ranked games. And for all those reasons, I think you can just be slightly more aggressive here. And I lied, by the way. I said you were only marking 1 door. I know there's a door directly above it. You're marking 2 doors, but you could be marking 4 doors. Trying to get worse gradually. Hey, that's Widowmaker, right? It's a little bit. It almost feels like a little bit of RNG. Sometimes you roll a nat 20, sometimes you roll a nat 1. It's okay. And yeah, especially noticing how aggressive your tanks are getting, get even more aggressive. Because now it's not just you up here, but even if it was just up here, even if like 5 of your teammates were pushing the cart right here, I would still want you aiming for these sites just to be, again, getting that pressure up as soon as possible. Good D-Mech. I like that we're not using grapple here. Like a little bit worrying that Genji might have had deflect there because we didn't hear the sound cue. We didn't see it personally. Did he have? That's our Genji. Did he have deflect? Yeah, he did. He's just bad. All good. So one nice shot. I'm pretty sure he was like mid. Let's go back actually. Let's watch it. Let's 0.25 this. Let's see if Beanie's hacking. Cowabunga indeed. All right. Look at this shot, guys. Genji is like mid backflip. He's mid dash actually. So you actually missed that shot. He hit that one for you. So definitely not hacking. A bit of a lucky situation. But like you see how hard he has to commit. This is like, even if he has full cooldowns, look at what he's dashing into. Imagine you don't hit this headshot. He's dashing into 3 people. Almost guaranteed your Ana still has nade. Okay, never mind. She doesn't. I'm bad. But like there's no way Genji, unless you deflect a headshot into yourself or the Zen, there's no way Genji like gets out of this alive. He's panic dashing right now because he's so worried about you that he feels like if I don't make a play right now, I'm gonna get domed. And guess what? He got domed anyway. So nice play, nice shot. A little bit of luck, but we'll take a little bit of luck every now and then. Still waiting for the play to get worse, Beanie. Good lord. I still think dash should be instant like blink. I think that might be problematic. It also doesn't really fit with the lore of anyone besides Tracer.
No one can
that kind of pressure right there, literally, if I was that Genji player, and I'm bad, so don't take this for granted, but like, if I get body shot right there by a Widow, I'm instantly deflecting. Like, I'm instantly deflecting and backing out of the choke, and then all of a sudden, I'm not pressuring top, I'm not forcing their Genji out, I'm not forcing the D.Va out, I'm not able to follow my Winston. That kind of stuff. Because if I don't, I might just get headshot again, and I don't get to play the game anymore. That's really good pressure. I like that you're using walls to help help continue the snowball, essentially. So there's typically 2 situations in which you want to use Widow walls, barring like a Widow duel where you're winning the trying to win the 1v1. That's kind of a niche situation, but there's 2 situations. One is you want to snowball your positioning and make their approach even more predictable than it already is. Like, Watchpoint Gibraltar retakes are incredibly predictable, right? You have 1 of 3 options here, you had 1 of 4 options here, all of which are choke points, all of which feel bad. Same applies to attackers, by the way. This map sucks. But with walls, you don't even need to put any guesswork in, and neither do your teammates, which means you can assume more coordination, more forward pressure, more early shots, and all these good things that make you win the game harder. Very good use of Widow walls here. And I know, or at least I assume this is with good intention, because you're using it to keep this position and not need to worry about grappling away and stuff like that. You could theoretically use this to get even more hyper-aggressive, because maybe with Widow walls they stall themselves behind the choke, but that's not the case currently. Their tanks are going through, so we're in a really good position. The other opportunity is to get ourselves the earliest advantage possible with our approach. So, for example, if we were retaking and we were trying to mix up which door we're coming through, if we already know where we need to aim, we can choose which door is going to be most beneficial to us, knowing where the enemy team is, knowing what their potential to counter-aggress on us is. Like, for example, we're approaching here, and we're thinking, okay, before I go and peek, I'm going to pop Widow walls. And then I see, okay, it's only the D.Va up here, and the Winston's, like, sitting down here, and he's ready to jump on me. Maybe I don't peek this door anymore. Maybe I wait a little bit and wait for that Winston to jump back, and then I peek this door. Or maybe I see, like, oh, wait, their Ana's playing like over here for some reason, or their Ana's playing in ship, so maybe it'd be better to go into this door and maybe get a shot onto her instead of going for this door for the standard approach of clearing top ship kind of thing. Or maybe I mix up going underneath because they're hiding inside ship, and maybe I can get a shot off when they're trying to peek out. Little bits of information to either snowball your advantage even harder, or to give you an easier time getting your first angle off. That's typically what you want to use Widow walls for, at least if you're using them for an individual purpose. And then there's niche settings for like using them to help your team, using them to win a Widow 1v1, whatever it is. My reasoning in my head was I popped 1 shot and they know I'm here, so I can't peek, but I can pressure with sights. You absolutely can peek. The only thing is you need to account for sleep dart and Genji, deflect. There's no one else that can threaten you from this range. Like, you're not in dash distance. You might get matrixed, but that's, again, if you force Winston to use a bubble here or force D.Va to use half her matrix, that's a winning play. That's an advantage that you're getting from just standing and staring at them. And that's fine. But I know what you're saying. You're trying to make sure it's safe enough to stay in this position, and walls help you do that. And now we're going for the repeak. You see the Winston bubble, so you recognize there's nothing you can do there. Good poke damage. A lot of people feel like they shouldn't ever be shooting at tanks, but realistically, you don't have many other options. Your only other options right now would be a hyper-aggressive play like grappling forward, which technically you could do, but there's a lot of scary threats on the enemy team. Genji, dive tanks, all these kinds of things that could threaten you, so you're not trying to force anything. The only time I want to see you grappling aggressively here is if you have such a strong advantage that taking you out of the fight after getting aggressive wouldn't be a hindrance but a benefit to your team. So what does that mean? Essentially, like, say you got to pick on the Genji, and your team, your Genji and your dive tanks are pushing forward, and your supports are moving forward with the cart, and all these good things start happening because we're getting good angles. Then you can get like a hyper aggressive angle here, and then even if the Winston and the D.Va dive you, and you get forced out, that's bad for you. But now all of a sudden your Ana and your Zen are like free firing, and your Winston and your D.Va are on their backline for free, and they're split from their tanks. Then your aggressive play, even though it gets you punished or forced out, is still a benefit to your team. That's when you want to start thinking about aggressive playmaking in terms of your position with Widow. Otherwise, shooting tanks, pretty good. All right, you see the Genji getting close. Oh, we're going for the outplay. He got outplayed by the Zen instead because he was so hyper. Again, the fact that Genji dashed probably reflected with you in mind meant that he didn't have the tools to help kill the Zen, and then Zen kills him instead. This team fight isn't going great in other departments, though. The headshot after headshot. Don't be afraid to shoot barriers either. Again, it's better than shooting nothing, number one, and you're not in a position to change locations anyway. Your grapple's on 4-second cooldown. This is one of those situations, seeing the Genji dead, seeing the Winston dead, only the D.Va can respond to you. If their D.Va does respond to you, no one's there to touch cart. That's very good. So it's a losing play either way for them. They either lose to you getting aggressive, getting good sightlines, or they lose to not being able to contest the payload because D.Va is the only one that can contest you. Good situation to get aggressive. But it's 4 seconds away. So don't be afraid to just shoot bubble because you don't really have any other options. Oh, we hear the Cassidy. His boots are super loud. Where is he? Oh, there he is on the ground. What did he do? Where did he come from? I'm curious. Hold on. So he got rezzed. He's up here. Into the iris. He just walks around. Okay. He's doing his best, guys. Don't worry about him. Excuse me? Good awareness, good ears. 62%, only half HP. Or not half HP, but like only like 75% HP. Unlucky. Old Widow charge, maybe even old Cassidy health would have gotten that kill. But who needs it, right? Absolute domination. Cass needs some better shoes. So like, I agree with the reasoning behind Blizzard's balance design of how loud footsteps are. Their balance philosophy was the more threatening a character is, the louder their footsteps should be. I agree with that. I don't think it should be based on stuff like weight, for example. But in practice, like, it's, why is Cassidy as loud as like Reaper when Cassidy doesn't have nearly the mobility or self-sustain that Reaper does? Like their measurement of like what's strong is a little bit out of whack for me. I just realized my cam is slightly blocking the kill feed, so I'm gonna change that real quick. Three layers deep on the kill feed should be fine. Okay, yeah, back to the VOD. Sorry. He has got some stompers. Well, it is the spurs on his boot, right? At least it's realistic if you were just a cowboy running around. It's just like, Beanie, have you missed a shot yet? Even the shot you missed on that Genji, he dashed into for you. So this is what I would consider hyper-aggressive. And something, pro tip for Widow players out there, something that I think people forget is that, like, this angle is good, you know? The only thing that this angle gets you is distance from the ground. and you're sacrificing your ability, your only movement cooldown, in order to get distance from the ground when you can get nearly the same angle here. I guess obviously you can see like a little bit deeper. You can see maybe a little bit above shields and stuff like that. But realistically, in this situation, that doesn't matter. So just use this space and keep your movement cooldown on hand. Because right now, this is not a snowballing situation. This is an aggressive play. And it can be a snowballing situation if you find a pick here, but you shouldn't be dictating position on needing to find a kill. Because the worst case scenario, what happens right now is you go up here, you're about to see zip, nothing, except maybe a Cassidy who decides he wants to die. And now you're in a situation where if this Genji was using his brain and saw you, he would be able to dash onto you. Your D.Va is currently being forced out. She might not have Matrix or boosters. Who am I kidding? D.Va always has boosters to be able to support you adequately, and you don't have your movement cooldown to get out of here. Hey, what's up, Caden? So yeah, little bit scary there, and you felt the pressure, you backed off immediately, good decision, but that grapple initially was just too aggressive for the context. Ooh. Alright, that's a reset, if I've ever seen one. Amphea, hello, welcome to the chat. Oh, sorry, you're saying hello to Caden. My bad. How dare I? Good angle here, like that you're using the wider range as opposed.
The world's greatest sniper.
I'm just sitting back and watching at this point.
Nano boost administered.
I'm feeling unstoppable.
Unfortunately, we lost our Ana, but this is still really good. See, now the exact same grapple that you're doing here makes more sense, right? So now this makes more sense for a couple reasons. Obviously, the context of the enemy team getting obliterated helps, but also the availability of your teammates. Before, it was just your tanks up, and they were already aggressive, meaning they'd probably already committed cooldowns, meaning they'd already probably taken damage, meaning they're probably on their way out. Now, we're grappling with the momentum of our team pushing forward, at the same time that we have a numbers advantage, a slight one because our Ana died, but still a numbers advantage currently, that we can take aggressive positioning and not assume that it's going to be punished. It's still possible, and this is where at a higher level you would need to do things like before grappling here, you would need to know where the Genji is. Because at a higher level, if the Genji is lurking up here, or get within dash distance easily, he could easily 1v1 you if his mechanics are good enough kind of thing. So you would still need to mark individual threats. But in terms of team-wide presence, this is the timing that you want to feel out. You want to feel the ability to keep up with an aggressive team fight. There's two things, again, telling us, there's actually three things telling us we're getting aggressive here. One is the cooldown usage from our front line. Our Genji, our D.Va, and our Winston are all going in now, so we're going in with them. Two is the pick on the Cassidy that we got. And three is a little bit of the ult economy. So they just missed Shatter. They do have Blade. Actually, ult economy is like not great for us right now, but we do have like the D.Va out of mech. I don't even know. Okay, no. There's only two reasons. I don't know what I was talking about. But this is still a good grapple. Unfortunately, yeah, the ult economy coming in from the Genji. Oh, tell me. Yeah, this kid's gonna uninstall after this. What are you doing? This is why no one plays Overwatch anymore, because they have to play against Beanie. You fell to 32 from 37 after not playing? Okay. So yeah, you're a little bit of a big fish in a small pond right now then. And that's fine. I mean, there's nothing you can do about your rank decaying. Your MMR is probably still the same, so don't feel bad about that. F and chat for that Genji. Oh, Caden, you missed the shot earlier. I'm gonna go back and show you after we full cap this map. Again, using walls here, really smart, because again, even though it's obvious where they're coming from, now it's even more obvious. Now it's even more guaranteed that they're gonna have a harder time pushing out. Now it's pretty much a guarantee that we're gonna full cap this right now. They're doing their best, but I don't see this going their way. We got a kill on the Brig. I like the Venom Mine there, so full cap, nice. So I haven't talked about Venom Mine at all. So far I've seen okay usage of it. Typically, you're using a very defensive Venom Mine. If you're in a Widow 1v1, the only thing I would like to say is like you put Venom Mine to block your head and stuff like that, but this is a counter Venom Mine to Genji specifically, right? So if Genji dashes on you and you hit a body shot on him, that brings him down to about 100 HP. The gas does 50 damage over time. and then you just like do a bit of SMG and a melee, and he's dead, right? And there's nothing you can do because he's already dashed on you. He's got no more movement unless he's like got pocket healing going up with you, or I guess rally on him or something like that. So really good defensive mind for that kind of play. And this is a situation where you don't need. I'm just gonna go back to get round 1 off the screen. You don't need an aggressive Venomine to give you information. 1, because you have walls, but 2, because we're spawn camping them. I do see you lean on this kind of defensive Venomine. Oh, it's 75 damage? Okay. One of the worst things about my knowledge of Overwatch is like I'm really bad with numbers. I am terrible about knowing cooldowns, distances, damage values, and stuff like that. I know how the game feels and the expected outcome of interactions and stuff like that, but I couldn't tell you like how much Widow damage is going to be at 75% charge versus like 100% charge, those kinds of things. But it's more about a game of like interaction knowledge and stuff like that, so I feel okay saying that. But there were a couple situations I wanted to bring up. Now that I'm thinking about it, where we were trying to snowball up here, use the defensive mind here. That's good. I would have liked to see you throw an aggressive one here if you didn't have walls. That's the only thing I could think of you thinking about, because you could already see these threats. You can't see this threat. Mark that just in case something gets on top of you that you're not ready for. Little things like that. But to be honest, like you absolutely dominated this entire lobby. This is a free win, it seems like. You and your team are on the same page more often than not. The biggest criticism I can really give is like there were a few, like 2 throughout the whole round, aggressive grapples that you didn't need to go for and could have potentially gotten you punished and would get you punished at a higher lobby. So instead of giving feedback about what we saw, I'm going to give feedback about what you need to be able to do this in higher level play. But before that, I want to show Caden this shot on the Genji because I think it's funny.
Ready for battle.
A little bit past this. Oh yeah, here it comes. This is so funny. Wait, don't tell me this is a loss, Beanie. Don't you dare. No, I'll go through. So I didn't really give you much meaningful feedback. I just want to like recap that round a little bit. This is a loss, good lord. We will go through some of the defense. I didn't want to go through the previous VOD second round just because we were covering a lot. But we just watched you click heads for like 5 minutes, so we can go through the second half, or maybe not half. Look at this shot. This is outrageous. Oh, this poor Genji. And then he comes back later with the nano blade. It gets domed again, and then really clean play, Beanie, like I said. And I am heartbroken that this somehow amounts to a loss, but we'll go through it, and we'll see what happens. Super calculated with that dash, obviously, yeah. But yeah, before that, recapping a little bit, I don't need a whiteboard, we'll just talk about it. Again, like the aggressive grapple usage, make sure the context clues matter. At a higher level, you'll need to dive deeper into the context. So it's not enough to know that you got picks, you're pushing forward, you see your team moving forward. You need to address every individual and their each individual range. So, for example, you'll need to know how your Winston's committing his bubble. Does it look like an aggressive bubble and he's going deep to get aggressive? Or is it just like he's diving aggressive with bubbles with the intention of backing out like a soft dive? How is your Diva committing space? Is she moving with the Winston, or is she leaving an off angle open where the Genji could approach you? Where is the Genji himself? Has he committed dash? Has he committed reflect? Does he have Dragon Blade? Do they have nano? All these kinds of things, you'll add layers to your context clues, but it's still the same priorities. If it's safe enough, and if the aggression will benefit you, even if they focus you down, then that's when you get aggressive. It's just about your game knowledge and your awareness of all the context clues that lead up to that knowledge before you commit the cooldown. So it seemed like you were reacting to strictly getting kills and seeing frontline momentum, which is a really good fundamental level to be at. But to push that even further, to get past that 3,700 mark kind of thing, to get into the GM levels of really high level awareness and things like that, you need to address every individual threat individually. And yes, teamfight momentum, it go back and forth, but for a very individual focused and very vulnerable hero like Widowmaker, you need to think deeper in order to be able to play consistently and find those opportunities consistently without getting punished. But honestly, other than that, like, you played out of your mind this game. And again, like, the other thing is, like, at a higher level lobby, you wouldn't be able to free fire at that Genji every time because he would be baiting your opportunities and aiming to reflect headshot you and have the mechanics to be able to pull that off as well. So just like, you know this, obviously, the higher level you get, the more you need to worry about. I know you know this. It's just these instances might have gotten you punished in a higher level game, a higher level lobby, and that's what we want to start avoiding, even though we're pub stomping this game. A good rule. All right, we're making a badminton reference. It's not really like about the game of badminton, but my personal experience as a player in badminton. When you're at a tournament, and this is something one of my very first coaches when I started playing as a badminton player, when you're at a tournament and you're one of the higher rated players at a tournament, not to brag or anything, but when you are expected to be one of the players in the finals, you go up against a lot of like lower seeded players. And that's because of the way tournament seeding works. That's just because of like how brackets work in general and stuff like that. A lot of tournaments in badminton would be round robin play because the games happen so fast. So you'd be playing against a lot of players. And there's so many things you need to keep in mind. So for you as a player, as a competitively driven player who's aiming to improve, when you're in a lobby like this, you need to treat it as not as seriously. Like you're not going to like sweat and like sprint to the max and like hardcore play every single time, but you need to maximize your interactions the same way you would a top 500 lobby. You need to maximize those interactions because of two reasons. One, it's going to keep you from burning out. If you play slow and you play to give up advantages and you're not maximizing your interactions, again, like you don't need to go like hardcore sweat and like break your wrist flicking like 360 flicks across the map and stuff like that and go for the higher or go for the lower percentage play and hit the highest mechanical demanding shots every time. But you need to get the most, you need to play the smartest game you can play to end it quickly and to avoid yourself from burning out. Obviously, with a physical sport, that matters a lot more. When you're in tournament play, you're expected to play for like 6 hours at a time kind of thing. But also for the mental game and for your dedication of improvement as a whole as a player. In order to improve long term, it's about consistency. And when it comes to playing at a high level, it's not about your peaks, right? It's not about the best you can play on any given day. It's about how good you can play over the course of 100 games. And poker players understand this, and athletes understand this, and esports athletes understand this. And one of the best analogies I've heard for this is like you can imagine your skill level as a ruler. And the high point of the ruler, or one end of the ruler, is the best you've ever played, and the lowest end of the ruler is the worst you've ever played. And the more you play, or let's say the best you've ever played in the past 50 games, and the worst you've ever played in the past 50 games. Your goal isn't to push the higher end. I should be doing this the other way because my webcam's flipped. Your goal isn't to push the higher end higher. Your goal is to shorten the ruler while keeping it towards the higher end. That's your goal as improving as a player. And again, this is for all those competitively driven people. Like if you're playing the game to have fun, play the game to have fun. And Beanie, I know you play the game to have fun too, but for those of you who are like really grinding and trying to improve, it's not about your play of the game one every 100 games and like the amazing outplay you had in one lobby. It's about how you're playing every lobby. And if you're not taking the easy games as seriously, you're never going to be doing that because you'll be extending the lead maybe, but you'll also be extending it on the other side. And you don't want a meter stick. You want a very short ruler that condenses your level of play and makes you a more consistent player. Consistent, reliable player. Value, exactly. Anyway, let's see how Beanie's team manages to throw this incredible lead. Consistency is something I struggle with, and that's natural. You know what breeds consistency? Consistent play. And you can't grow consistent play without a huge amount of time commitment that not everyone has, to be perfectly honest, and without that mental fortitude to be able to focus the same in a game like this as you would focus in a top 500 lobby, or in a scrim, or in a tournament, or whatever it is. And yeah, I don't really have advice when it comes to building that. It's a lot of just coming from experience of putting the hours in, but just playing with intention consistently. If you ever catch yourself feeling like frustrated or mentally tilting, if you ever feel like yourself just like taking it too easy and not thinking about your interactions, that's the slow death, right? Every loss of focus is the tiny death that leads to inconsistent play. But anyway, yeah, let's see. How many heads can we click but still lose?
Stop the pain.
Patience. Beanie. They have families.
The enemies of Talon will be eliminated.
As soon as you get that pick on the Mercy. So, I don't know if you watch a lot of Overwatch League. I haven't been recently personally. But if you watch Widow players in the Overwatch League, the moment they get a pick like this, they just snap on doing damage. They're not thinking about getting another headshot. They're not thinking about killing another 3 people. I mean, if you can, obviously, but those opportunities don't happen in the Overwatch League. You're lucky to get a single headshot throughout a team fight in the Overwatch League as a Widow. Things are different now with Sojourn Jodes meta, but don't worry about that. That's not what we're talking about right now. So after you get this headshot, I'd like to see you focusing down that diva as much as possible, as soon as possible. Because the more, even non-lethal damage you can do, the more you snowball this advantage, and more importantly, the faster you snowball this advantage, meaning every interaction that your team makes becomes more valuable sooner. There's Widow players in Owl? Nah, not anymore. Sad days.
Sniper.
And again, obviously,
Amateur.
giving up your position here is going to be necessary, but that's fine. Still aim to just do as much damage as you can. Like SMG this Winston as you're backing away. If you're grappling away, even just like trying to get a little bit of SMG damage on tanks is valuable stuff when you're already ahead in a team fight. Ooh, now we're in a Widow 1v1. Just kidding. It's a Widow 1v0. Again, little things like that at a higher level of play, you're not going to be allowed to do, but because this Genji has consistently proved himself to be a non-worthy adversary, we can get away with shots like that. And that's another thing I should bring up, actually. At the level of play you're playing at, you can start playing off player habits and things like understanding where the Widow likes to peek. You just saw her in that window, you should be scanning that window, maybe Venom mining that window next time. Or maybe because you killed her there, you should expect her at a different window instead, kind of thing. Just marking those areas, understanding timings, understanding how this Genji plays, all that kind of stuff. Again, probably not necessary in this game, but those are the habits you want to start building. Yeah, that Genji should have killed you twice. Small thing there, because of these advantages. This was a situation you could have gone for like a grapple up here. Because they have a Widow, maybe that's too aggressive, but something you could think about. Seeing your Cassidy die here, you should be thinking about potentially giving up space after your first shot or two. So you save grapple for that. Maybe you get an aggressive Venom Mine to help mark your first shots. Ooh, very aggressive. Thankfully, the Widow hit a non-fully charged shot, it seems like. Look at that map knowledge, shooting the gaps. This is already where I would be in a higher lobby considering to grapple away, because we haven't seen them commit movement cooldowns besides their Winston, aka we haven't seen the Genji dash. And we know that we don't have the numbers to be as active as a threat as we'd like to be. This is starting to veer, not just for you, but for your team. Also, I didn't realize, what is this? That's not what we want. Overall, this is starting to veer into like cocky levels of play. And this is what I mean where we start the slow death of the mental game, where if we start taking too many things for granted, we stop thinking about enough interactions, we start taking it easy because we're winning, then we start losing. And that's incredibly common all the way up to the Overwatch League. If I'm being honest, there's so many players that ride momentum to the point where they start picking up bad habits. And at a team level, that can be fundamentally team destroying. But with good consistent play, with good mental fortitude, that can be avoided. The slow death of beating. Oh, what? Oh, nice Ana. Angle isolation here. We know they have a Widow. Okay, good. Just making sure. Basically, I never want to see you slow walking scoped in. That's just a habit I think you can avoid all the way out. Unless you know they're Widow, they're not playing Widow, or you basically, if you don't have any active threats, then do whatever you want. But slow walking here is the equivalent of like Zen holding right click as he's out in the open, right? You're the most predictable target you could possibly be, and it's unnecessary. Absolutely disgusting. Are you just lying to me that you lost this game, or what? Going for a unique angle here. Good opportunity, but they ended up backing off. Getting a health back, good. Only downside about grappling back here, when you technically didn't need to after killing the Widow, is now it's slower to retake this position, and you're likely going to commit grapple here. Again, a potentially bad habit. If you were to grapple up here right now, 10 seconds go by where you might need grapple. Might not get you killed, but might get you forced out of position to the point where you can't hit as many shots and do as much damage. These are those bad habits starting to creep in. You got overly defensive with your grapple when you didn't need to. You're taking yourself out of the fight, or maybe it was overly aggressive if you wanted to hit this angle. Nice hair, by the way. And because of that, it's leading to less of an advantage the longer it goes on, and that's where we start missing opportunities, or we start giving opportunities to the enemy. Okay, at least we're not grappling up to blue box right now, so good job. Okay, Winston, calm down. Now we're grappling up. All right, yeah, really good habits. I was really happy with the way you played that. Granted, I was mostly unhappy with how the enemy played it, but still. Nope. No. You know what I'm gonna say. Against the Widow, more aggressive, block your head. Against the Genji, more predictable or more unpredictable around terrain, closer to terrain, or where you're gonna be grappling away. Or if you're trying to predict the Widow, more aggressive to block angles and stuff like that. Get the most out of your cooldowns here. I know it's just Venom Mine, worst ability in the game, but yeah. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is bad habits, just stagnating your position, hard holding an angle. When your team is getting aggressive here, you could absolutely be dropping right now and going for a shot. The endless machine gun is going off right now. You could be dropping down here and using this angle with intentions of grappling back up or grappling back here if you're dropping like back this way. You could be getting more aggressive here, but we're missing small opportunities because we're not seeing our Winston primal people. The intention here should be, okay, Winston's getting a lot of aggression, off angle here. We can't hit these people, sure, but maybe he'll boop someone into our sight lines. Maybe people trying to support or help burn down the Winston will be available here. Same thing's happening from your D.Va right now. Why is our Ana not going for a nade right now? Why is our D.Va not helping Matrix for the Winston right now? Why aren't more people capitalizing on this play instead of just slow rolling it? Yeah, missing a lot of opportunities here. Grapple back for defensive position. Even like this kind of position for when your Winston was primaling would have been good. But now we're grappling here on the tail end of things. So again, dangerous because we've used our cooldown when we're expecting, or we used our movement cooldown specifically when we're expecting the enemy team to push into us, and bad because we missed the aggressive opportunity that our Winston was providing to us. And again, in terms of team play, this was not like a team fight that was happening, but it was an individual opportunity that the Winston was affording us that we should have gone for. And again, the more we go into high-level play, the more we need to play off those individual opportunities while still keeping the bigger context of the macro team fight in mind. Oh, do we repeak? Oh, very dangerous repeak. We wish we had grapple to just like get ourselves out of this position and go for an off angle over here to ignore the Widow, but we don't. Yeah. All right, you win the game. You're lying to me. What was that? Are you kidding? Oh, very dangerous there. Again, I like the idea of the grapple here, and it's relatively low risk because even if you die to that headshot, you're back in time for the team fight. But I would like to see you taking angles one at a time. If you're grappling up to blue box here, you're grappling to check first this corner, then maybe you can even like off angle check over here. This is a very unexpected angle for a lot of Widow players, by the way, and things like that. And then maybe you jump on top of blue box, check angles down here, and then you start going wide whenever you want to. But you took the most aggressive angle first, opening up the most opportunities possible without being able to check them all individually. You were slow to check the Widow's position. She had time to get a headshot off of you. She missed, but that's not an excuse. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Ooh. We make it out, but that's a nice blade by them, and we didn't really have anything. All right. If they're winning a team fight just because they're blading and primaling and getting a headshot for the first time, that's fine. We have a whole lot of map left to go. We didn't have any ults. Like I said, we could have been smarter about our position and could have been smarter about the angles we're checking. Now we're swapping over to the Tracer. Talk to me about why you wanted to swap Tracer here, because you were absolutely popping on Widow. You were, one, outplaying the Genji, outmaneuvering the tank line, outplaying the enemy Widow, and the support line is very vulnerable to a Widow here. So it's either I just felt like playing Tracer, or it's I think I can better handle the enemy team as Tracer, which is, either way is fair. I'm just curious what's going on in your brain right now, Beanie. Because I think Tracer's actually a good swap here. I don't think it's necessary, though. My assumption was that we could touch and then I could play around the point. Okay. Let's see.
60 seconds remaining.
Not quite. Fair assumption, though. I like that you're thinking in terms of macro there. Forcing out the D.Va, trying to get positioning to get onto the back line. Ooh, missed a slight opportunity to execute the Genji there. He's dead anyway, doesn't matter. Saving blinks. Oh, yeah, need to be checking angles. Even though we're not playing Widow, we should still be thinking about trying to get on the Widow, especially with the Genji dead now. There's a lot less worrisome threats. And sure, we could play passive Tracer right now and just force out the tank line, make our team stabilize position. But this is absolutely the enemy team getting over-aggressive without numbers advantage while cutting off their backline while our team is still in a relevant position. Oh, we don't have deep impact. Not as relevant as I thought, but this is still an individual playmaking opportunity if we're looking for it. At the very least, we would like to deny positioning from the Widow and keep them from doing what we were trying to do on our attack. But we see the Widow, let's see how we get on her. Triple Blink. Thank you, D.Va, for the long-range support. Oh, unfortunate. A surprising amount of damage coming in from the Ana. Tracer player's dumpster tier compared to my Widow. I mean, that was a good play. He just didn't recall on time. I think you weren't assuming that much damage coming in from the Ana. That's okay. Looked like you were considering a swap there, but opting to keep Tracer. 50% to Pulse Bomb is easily chargeable. Also, like you mentioned, Tracer would be better in this close to cap situation. I can't call it an overtime situation, but similar kind of vibe where we're trying to stop them from touching and we don't have the best positioning possible. Widowmaker is very much a win more type of hero, whereas Tracer can be a stabilizing, can be a playmaker, can be a win more, can also be just a stop us from losing hero. So being more flexible makes more sense here with your hero choice, so absolutely fine. Ooh, we don't get sat on, thankfully. Ooh, very aggressive. I like the idea of it here, but yeah, just very aggressive. Knowing that we didn't have anyone going in with you, knowing that they just remeched and had both tanks available, knowing that they're playing heroes like Ana and Zen without you being able to get on them individually makes that a bit of a risky play. And these are the slow death. The hyper-aggressive play when we don't need to be hyper-aggressive is how we give up advantages. And I guarantee you're not the only one doing this, by the way. I'm sure almost everyone on your team is thinking very similarly, like, why are we losing when we did so well? When we're clearly the better team, why are we losing? It's because we're playing like we're winning when we're not. And we're not thinking enough about the interactions, about the context clues that lead up to the situation that tell us we need to slow down, we need to play patiently, we need to follow all the fundamentals that we were following at the very beginning of the game. But we stopped following because we were stomping them so deep into the ground that we thought we could do whatever we wanted. Now we're trying to do whatever we want, and we're getting punished for it, and we don't know how to restabilize. Good cart dancing. Very hard to get through any of this, but you did force the bubble. You did, I think, force the nade. I like the idea of trying to push the Widow out here. Realistically, unless you're able to get onto the high ground, though, there's not much you can do, unfortunately. Nice try, nice try. That fight early on was going well. I think I would have rather see you try to avoid the Widow sightlines, playing around Tetris or playing around Forklift a little bit. Do people still call this Tetris? I don't know. But yeah, overall, not bad. Keeping the Tracer. Again, the situation here, you're probably thinking, like, I should be doing better on Tracer. Why am I not doing better on Tracer? Instead of thinking, what should I be doing to make the best play possible? You're thinking to yourself, oh, my aim's not as good as I want it to be, so I'm going to just focus on hitting more shots. So you're thinking, oh, I need to get on the Widow more easily, so I'm just going to play high grounds. When you should be thinking about much more simple things in terms of teamfight pressure, in terms of syncing cooldowns, back to those fundamentals we talked about in our Silver VOD earlier today. Those are the things that the bigger picture items we need to be focusing on right now instead of jumping to more conclusions. And I get it. It's a frustrating feeling, right? Like, you're in a position where you know you can perform better than the enemy team, and you're just not. And it's very hard in the moment as a player from first-person POV to diagnose all these issues. Spoiler alert, this is why coaches exist. But you need to be able to take a step back. Every time you die, stop trying to think about how you're going to outplay that situation, because that situation's not going to happen again. Start thinking about what you need to look for in the next situation. That's all you need to do. Take a step back. You died in that previous team fight. There's nothing you can do about it. You didn't kill that Widow. You couldn't have killed that Widow no matter what you did. It's not going to change what the next situation is going to look like. So start picking up clues. Start gathering information for the next fight instead of lingering on the past and trying and wishing it could go different. Again, I'm not in your brain. I don't know if that's what's going on, but that's a very common sentiment for a lot of players, so that's kind of what I'm addressing. Again, right now, you're probably going to get aggressive too quickly without, again, very high level tech, very underutilized tech. The camera move to see where our team is. Is our team in a position to be fighting? Should we be thinking aggressively right now? Probably not. Are we going to get aggressive anyway? You bet. You bet we are. Now it's forcing us out of a position where we had a much more aggressive off angle. We had more opportunities to assassinate people. Being able to get back here undetected and then be able to get on the Widow without like burning 2 blinks is incredibly strong. But now they know where you are. You're going to be blinking through Venom Mines, through Defense Matrix, through Discord Orb, all these difficult things. Guess what? Your Diva's doing the exact same thing. Is this a good time to be bombing? Are there a lot of people who can help make this bomb play work? No. Is she doing it anyway? Of course she is, because we think we're winning when we're not. All right, now we're relegated into playing defensive Tracer duties, which is fine. But the problem is we didn't choose to play like this. We were actively choosing to be an assassination Tracer, to be a backline heavy Tracer, but we had our choice taken away from us because we committed way too early, burned all of our momentum, and now we're relegated into defensive Tracer duties, and that's boring and that's no fun. It's helpful, but it's not what we were actively choosing to do, and that's a problem. We're giving the options to our enemy instead of to ourselves when we're playing the most flexible hero in the game. This needs to just, again, it all starts with just taking a step back, slowing ourselves down, and isolating what we're playing for instead of just thinking about what we want to do. You want to go kill that Widow. You know how bad they are at Widow based on the amount of headshots you hit on them, so why can't you? That's what you need to start asking yourself. And no, don't be ashamed of yourself. There's nothing to be ashamed of here. Like I said, everyone on your team is probably doing the exact same thing. And this is probably the most common problem at the rank you're playing at, is understanding like what it is you're supposed to be looking for in these situations. Because you're putting yourself in the driver's seat instead of, we're rally car racing right now, okay? You're putting yourself in the driver's seat instead of taking a moment to understand that right now, no one's driving the car. The car's stalled out. You need to be like the mechanic and in this moment, right? You need to be pulling in for a pit stop, addressing the issues with the car, and understanding why you can't go as fast as you were going before. It's not about hitting the gas harder. It's not about hitting the turns sharper. It's about understanding the bigger picture and looking around and addressing the issues at hand. Again, hyper-aggressive play. This Winston should die. If I was better and hitting more shots, this Winston would be dead. Winston's dead anyway, but you died as well. So why isn't he dead yet? Why can't I kill him? It doesn't matter. What matters is getting consistent value and playing the best you can and putting yourself in the right situations, which you could. You had the tools at your hand, but you got too aggressive, too tunneled on doing damage, too focused on winning now instead of making the best play. We're winning anyway, so it's fine in this case, but every death we can avoid, right? Every situation like this we should be analyzing and trying to pick apart and helping understand how we can make it better in the future. That's my job, Beanie. My job is to read your mind and put into words your thoughts so that you can remember them later. Ooh, scary, but that's fine. Ooh, unlucky. I like that you address the kill feed here. You backed off of your flank opportunity to be able to better support your team because you're thinking, uh-oh, someone died. It wasn't me this time, but someone died, so I'm probably going to have to play more defensively. We notice we do have ultimates building across the board, so we should be in an okay spot here. Sniper. Oh, very scary. I guess the thing here would be, why are we so aggressive as a whole? Again, like this is less on you and more on your Winston, I would say. But like we got aggressive like this, forced a primal. We're now forcing a trance in a losing play again. No one's contesting the Widow. That doesn't care about Trank. No one's being able to hold the front line, yourself included. You're going to be forced to back off soon. And we're not getting a good team play in. And they're at severe ult disadvantage, able to push this in almost for free, just off a single pick. Ooh. Spicy little play. I think you were trying to get the Genji or the Ana. Either way, I like that play. It was very creative, and you almost got the stick. Only thing I would say is a little bit more patience, and don't be afraid to do like micro adjustments post playing. You're very close. Let's go back to the play. Let's watch it in slow motion. This isn't to flame you, I promise. This is just to make sure you understand what you yourself are doing beyond the buttons you're pressing. So what here you're doing is you're blinking hyper aggressively around the corner. You're forcing a 90-degree turn onto a Genji, a somewhat lower value target, without knowing who's behind him, without knowing if he's planning on moving forward or backwards, and without reacting to, or without planning to react to his reaction to things like this. One, he has a movement cooldown. There's a hero here that doesn't, that we could have taken the time to see. And two, we're not reading the momentum of the fight, where honestly, like, maybe the best play you could have made right now is like waiting for Trance to run out, waiting for them to get confident to push back in, literally just like sitting here. And then the moment they start thinking aggressively, because they're probably not thinking about dashing in right now. We're trancing, right? They're already thinking about being defensively. So when they see a Tracer blink across their screen, they might have the potential to react to it. Again, this is just unfortunately you missing. And he dashes away. But we're forcing a very fast play when we had the cover of Trank. We had the time to set up a more easy to follow blink when it comes to adjusting our aim. We don't need to turn that 90 degrees if we're blinking past, or if we are turning 90 degrees, it's very, very intentional, not just because we have to round a corner, little things like that, and we're making the most out of the situation. It was a good attempt. I like the play. I like the idea of the play, trying to get the most of that momentum from Trank and be able to easily stabilize the situation, but little micro adjustments like that and less of a rushing mentality could have been beneficial there. Really nice barrier from their Sigma, unfortunately blocks our Diva Bomb, and this looks like where they're about to snowball things in. Let's see, I'm gonna watch the rest of this from top down, so let's see where we're able to get in. Yeah, you're seeing like all these things from our team being committed one by one, from the touching of the point to now Genji dashing in, the lamp coming in. Like no one was benefiting from that lamp. No one's helping this Genji get aggressive. This bubble was used very defensively, and unfortunately Warrior Coalescence doesn't care about it. This lack of coordination is not unique to you, but it's what causes these situations to... Oh wait, you're the Genji now, oops. But these lack of coordinations in these settings is what allows them to snowball. We need a coordinated play to stabilize in order to be able to play this. Of course, individual plays can stabilize, but it's a lower percentage chance. If this is maybe a 50-50 play, it could have been a 60-40 or a 70-30 play if you had a bubble on top of you, right? So little things like that. Oh, a rock to the face. And yeah, there's so many people at that point. And again, nothing to say about you individually there. It's just, as a team, we gave up so much momentum basically for free, just because we didn't take the time to take a step back, address some of the core issues with our play, which was basically that we were giving up too many advantages, we weren't interacting with our teammates enough to play off of each other, and we were playing too aggressively as a whole and banking on more opportunities happening that the enemy team just didn't show us this round. So it's not that you played extremely bad or anything and that's why you lost. It's not down to any individual, to be honest. It's down to the fact that we played like we were winning for too long, and that made us start losing. And even while we were losing, we still played like we were winning. All right, I think we'll end the VOD review there. I hope that's helped. I know that was probably a huge amount of information overload for you, Beanie. If there's one thing you learn from this VOD, it's that you can never underestimate your opponents. It's never about what you, I guess I shouldn't say it's never, but it's rarely about what you want to do or how you want to play the game, but it's about jumping through hoops and over hurdles to the point where you're allowed to play the game. There's so many things to keep track of. A lot of them are on your team alone before you even start worrying about threats on the enemy team, that you need to respect those, even when you're hard snowballing, hard stomping teams like this. In order to keep doing that, you need to keep following the same fundamentals and keep up the same level of momentum and focus and restraint that's needed to play at that high level.